Hello, 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 and welcome to Rockin the Love. I am Robyn Rice.
And I'm Gil,
Hold on,
and we made it.
we made it. I was giving my whole name today. I was having a whole name day.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got ahead of the game there.
Yeah,
Apologize.
no worries. So, anyway, together we are Olmsteads. Apart, I am Robyn Rice Olmstead. He is Gil William Olmstead, and we are here today to rock the love with you. So,
Well, if I might interject, I believe we've been dubbed the Olmstead team.
Team Olmstead,
Oh, Team Olmstead. That's what it was. Yes.
which is
Thank you.
the acronym for that is two, just like
Two.
Rev Go is go. You got these two-letter things going on.
So go to. We're the
Oh,
go-tos.
we are the go-to team.
That's right.
Huh. And we are in separate places. I am in Carlsbad, California, and Gil is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I was just moments ago. Through the technology, here I am. So we're so excited to be with you today. And today we're going to talk about freedom. Bold. What's the topic? What's the thing?
Bold freedom.
Bold freedom.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. What does
Interest.
freedom really mean? What does it require of us? What does it offer us? Those kinds of questions.
Yes, and this is sparked from Happy Juneteenth.
Yes, which is today, which is now an actual national holiday,
Yay.
which is observed by those who wanted another holiday to take time off.
That,
Government agencies. But it's good. It's finally been recognized for what it's been for so many years.
so why don't you tell us what it's been?
Well, it actually celebrates the time that the soldiers for the Union made it to Texas and were able to declare that the slaves were free. And this was literally 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation took effect on January 1st or whatever it was, 1863. This was in June 1865. So where the Union Army was when it was declared, those people were freed. Where they weren't, they were not free.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a good time to just pause and remember and to yes, there are things to celebrate and there's still work to be done.
Well, I was finding there's some names that have been used for it. Um, and I found it really interesting that Juneteenth is considered Juneteenth National Independence Day,
Hmm.
which is kind of an interesting, independence makes sense if you think about it. And it's also known as Jubilee Day, Emancipation Day, Freedom Day, Black Independence Day. It's known by many different things, but it is all about ultimately independence and freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a time in our country's history that was extremely painful for a lot of people.
I like the sentence ending at extremely painful.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, if there's pain for one, there's pain for all. And,
Yeah.
regardless of how it shows up, or, it doesn't matter the awareness around the why and the how as much as it just matters that, when injustice or inequality is happening, uh, we can't have peace.
Well, so I hear you. And on this Juneteenth, tell me about your week. What's been going
Okay, so well, first of all, I want to just say hello to everyone out there if you're listening, and please, put in the comments, say hello, let us know you're here, and like us if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you're watching. My week was great. It was great. I was in Albuquerque, and I was sitting in that office that you're in right now, and we were organizing and cleaning our new house. And I have to tell you, the way your screen is, it really needs to come down because that fan going is, yeah, it's just a little annoying, and no bouncing. So it was a great week. It was fantastic. It was fantastic to be with people, and we spoke a little bit last time on the show about what we were creating at Rio Grande Center for Spiritual Living, an evening entitled Solid Grounds that is happening every week. And it was the opening night. It was fantastic, and we had great music and lots of people and good fundraising, and it's just a lot of possibility. I mean, where were we this week that I was talking about what my mission in life is? What meeting were we in or something? I don't know, but I mean, like, everything that was happening during that week just really felt in alignment with who I am, who we are, and really bringing something to people that opens up their hearts and their minds and allows them to realize how important they are. So it just felt
on?
super successful on many levels. And it was fun to be with my husband. So, yeah, for any of you that don't know, we are a married couple living in two different parts of the world right now. But we had a good time together, and that was great. It was great. It was a great week. How about
I
you?
think I think it's interesting that you brought up the idea of bringing stuff to people and bringing people into something, and I think it so ties in with this whole idea of freedom that we create a space for people to feel free to do something they didn't think they could do,
Yeah.
and that's
And
kind of exciting. And and it's terrifying, clearly, for some people at some points.
but what I was going to say is it's something. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be as mundane as making coffee in the coffee pot that they've never used before. You know,
Mm-hmm.
or stepping out and doing something different. And yeah, I feel like a lot of people just had an opportunity to do it a different way. And I don't know, I mean, I really felt like on some I don't generally feel like this. I'm not one to recognize um, what I do. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I had people coming up to me saying things like, "Oh, well, you're the golden child, and you're, and just, I mean, I knew that was their way of praising me and the event, but thinking about it, it felt good for me, mostly because I really just think that's a reflection of who they are. That just shows me that they got a chance to see themselves in some way. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of work, but I didn't do it alone.
No.
I didn't do it alone, and it's coming from a collective vision, and it was just fun. It was just great. So that's my
Yeah. Well, I would chime in that my week was very good too, and very much enjoyed having you here. Very full, and a lot of moving parts and pieces, and trying to focus. And since Friday, sort of trying to rein it in and figure out what's next, because in 2 days we do it again, and this time without you in the flesh.
yeah.
And so that's a whole shift. And there's pieces that I've wanted to get done or thought I should get done or would like to have gotten done and they haven't happened.
No.
You know?
Yeah, we need a team. We need a, but it's all good. I mean, again, it's we good problems to have. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
it's good problems to have. People are happy. People are enjoying it, and it's going to continue to build. And we'll catch up to it if and how we can. And people
yeah,
that can take things on, and we just have to. This is really when we talk about trust and faith and surrender and all of those good old qualities that you hear thrown around. This is really an opportunity to live in those, because it's like, do I go this way or do I panic and run? Because there, and we're kind of in it because you can't really panic and run. We gave them the address. We're going to show up.
they're gonna be there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
we may as well play along and, just trust that it's going to be perfect. So, yeah. So it's great. So if y'all are in Albuquerque, you have to come on a Friday night to Solid Grounds. And we operate on a generosity model. It's all free. Um, and there's entrance, there's music, there's generally a band or a group or a musician playing. And there's all kinds of treats, fresh baked goods, and other savory items, and coffee and things like that. And it really, it was. I think people are excited to be together like that because
Hmm.
you're connected. I mean, people are connected, but they don't really have to connect. But it's not like you're sitting in a movie theater or you're sitting in a theater. It's like you're in a social event. It's almost like you're at a party, you know, but you don't have to talk to people and you don't have to know everyone, but you can if you want. There was a lot of
Yeah.
kissing and hugging and things going on. So it was just a good time, and it's going to continue to unfold. And
But I think one of the things you said, and I definitely agreed with as we were approaching, was Solid Grounds has a life of its own, and it's bringing that forward. And so part of that surrender, etc., is leaning into the thing itself.
right,
Allowing it to be what it is instead
right,
of instead of working really hard to maneuver it.
right.
You know.
Well, it's kind of like having kids, right? No, but really, it's like having a kid, and here's your kid, and they're a teenager or whatever, and they're kind of got it together, but they're at the stage where they have their own ideas, and our job is to trust that the foundation is there, that it's
Yeah.
been laid, and to support the unfolding vision, of what could be, how it can be enhanced, or how we can support what's already there, and how we can grow with it, and so
I love that. It's all about laying a foundation for all of us. I mean, we're always working on our infrastructure so that as we encounter life, we have the stability to weather it, whatever it is, to walk through it, to embrace it, but we're always, when we're learning, and we're learning spiritually, and we're challenging and doing those things, we are growing that base for ourselves.
yeah, yeah. It doesn't stop, everyone. It
Um,
doesn't stop. We just continue to do it differently.
Kind of
So,
thought you'd get to a certain age and be really smart or something, and so far hasn't happened. So
oh yeah, yeah. No, that always reminds me of when I used to waitress, when I was waitressing. And one night I was with this waitress, and I was working in a deli, and this was, when you have that vision of an old deli, kind of New York, Chicago type broad. Like, I mean, that's my waitress friend Gloria, and I don't know what was going on, but I got to the like pass out window. I was like, oh, Gloria, you know, tell me that it's not always going to be like this. I was like 20 and she was like 60, 70. And she was like, oh, honey, this is the easy part. I was like, and I always think like, yeah, that it doesn't, but it's true. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. We just get to figure out our part in it. And honestly, we get to declare it whatever we want,
Yeah.
and look at
Yeah.
it that way. So, yeah, it's interesting. And that brings us to the good news because a lot of times we get stuck in that place of looking at the news, listening to the talk of what's going on in the world and what are we going to do if, and all of those things. And really, there's a lot of good news happening. So we like to share some of that. So you got a good news story?
I got a good news story.
All right, give it to me.
All right. Well, it starts off a little sad. This family in Northern California had adopted a wild burro through the Bureau of Land Reclamation. He was very young, and they had him for a period of time with the family, and he was, became quite the part of the family. And then one day they were on a fishing trip or something. Burro was with them, and the burro took off, and they couldn't find him. They looked all around. I guess they tried using a drone. They did all kinds of stuff. Could not find this burro. And so they were sad, and they thought, well, I hope he makes it, And 5 years down the road, somebody in another part of the state takes a picture of a bunch of elk with a burro in the middle. And this donkey had been adopted by these elk and was hanging out with them and doing the thing and doing fine, and part of the bigger family. And so he posted this stuff online and stuff, and these people saw it and they're like, oh, there's our donkey. And they were very happy to know he was fine. But I think it's interesting, it's just another one of those stories of how, when we start to think that everything is competition, everything is about something winning over something else, you have the story like this.
Yeah.
Instead of shutting them out, they brought him in. You're kind of weird looking, but okay.
It's interesting. There's so many interesting animal stories lately that I've seen.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's really showing, to me, it also shows a lot of the oneness.
Mm-hmm.
That we think about like, oh, a donkey and an elk, but somehow there's that common language in that whatever that they worked it out.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. Well, my story is about a family that with 4 daughters. I'm assuming from different marriages, but 4 daughters nonetheless. And all 4 daughters graduating from high school were named valedictorian of their high school. And that outsmarted the odds of 1 in 11 billion.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So there's 4 daughters that are like 24, 22, 20 years old, and the last daughter 18. And the family says they never pushed their kids. It was never about that or suggested it as a target. And they told them, they never told them they had to make straight A's, and there was no this, you have to do this or else kind of thing. It was always just do your best. And they said as they could tell, as of course the last child, the 18-year-old, like that she probably felt a little pressure.
There's a little pressure there, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, she made valedictorian, and um, yeah, she felt a little pressure, but it wasn't. It was still it was her thing to do, and the mom said she thinks they all had a little sense of relief when she finally did it, just because because the whole family. But now they're like, we're all in this together. We all made it, and it's like a win for the family, and they're all off to college and going to do their own thing. But I mean, how it's just sweet, and like what a great thing that it really didn't come from like the pressure. And as we talk about, like I showed Gil a video the other day. I don't know if any of y'all saw it on Saturday Night Live from about a month ago about kids and teachers and the teachers. And I mean, there's just our experience of education and high school and kids right now. Let's just say it doesn't necessarily seem like a incubator for great learning. I mean, it doesn't seem easy. It doesn't seem like it's a value for all kids. I mean, they have so many other things like the internet and video games and things like that. And so it's just interesting and great to see, to see a story like this. So it's good news. That's my
Good news.
Good news, everybody.
Wow. All right.
All right. Well, I see many people out there that haven't even said hello. Say hello.
Well, why don't you tell us who's out there? Who do you see?
Okay.
I see Bobby.
No, I'm not going to out anybody. It's not good. But thank you for watching wherever you are. And we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back here, and we're going to talk about freedom, and we're going to see where that takes us, because I think that there's a lot of angles and aspects to freedom, and especially in relationships, like, what does it mean, freedom? What does freedom mean to you? Why don't you tell us that in the chat, and we'll talk about it when we come back right here on New Thought Media Network.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Hello, hello, hello. We are back. I am Robyn.
And I'm Gil, and we are happy to be here with you on Rockin the Love.
Yes, we are. So today we're talking about freedom, and we're talking about bold freedom. Bold freedom, because our theme for the month is boldly go.
Yes.
So, freedom. I think, so what came up for me, just so y'all don't know, we don't talk about this a lot before we do it because we like it to be real. So, but what came up for me is how charged that word is, and like how does one balance freedom in a relationship? And I mean, I'm thinking about a committed relationship right now, but even like like a partnership, but even work, or just your commitments. Like, how do you balance that? And I was thinking commitment and freedom. Can you have it both ways?
Uh, There's a question for you. Can you have it both ways? Commitment and freedom. Yes,
Same word.
because the freedom resides in your commitment. If you are in obligation somehow, or you are in you something is holding you there that's outside of your control, then perhaps that's not freedom. But generally speaking, we are always in a state of freedom of choice somehow. And so if we are in something and committed to it, in theory, we're functioning in our freedom. Now, does that mean that we get to do everything we want? Or it's always going to look like, I think there's a difference between freedom and what do I want to say? Lack of responsibility. That's not exactly right, but difference between living free and not having anything that you are responsible to. We're still responsible to things in our life.
Mm.
Freedom is about the choice for how we address those things.
Well, but yes, I hear you, and I technically agree with you, and I mean, I wonder, like,
Well, that's good because that's more than I usually get. I usually don't get a technical agreement at all, just nothing. So thank you.
that's not even true, and you know it. But no, I mean, but it brings up for me, like, do do you feel like you have freedom in our relationship? I mean, and obviously, we're living in two different states. We're living in two different parts of the world, so there is a different weight on the word freedom. We have had. I mean, I think about it, like, not a lot really, but even when I'm there with you, and then I'm home. Even when I'm home, I'm well aware that I have a lot more freedom, just in the fact that I don't have to answer to anyone, not in a bad way, but I don't have to say, "Hey, I'm running to the store. Hey, I'm going to this." Um, yeah, it's interesting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think there's and I think that's an interesting growing point for us and for anybody in a situation like this, is that idea of what does it mean to be living freely in a partnership, right?
Hmm.
Where does the responsibility, where does the compassion, where does the whatever it is that drives it, where does that kick in over, that would cause me to make a choice that may not feel as free, but is it really less free? Do I really not have the choice to make a different choice? I just think I don't have a choice sometimes. Because I think, oh, she won't like it. She'll be mad at me. I know she really wants that rug.
So now you're talking. Well, that's great. That's great. That's sort of what I was thinking about, because I think I read a quote about a lot of our freedom is about how we, well, I'll just put it up for you. One of our greatest freedoms is how we react to things, and that's interesting, because if we're imprisoned by what other people think, or what we think other people think, or what we think we should do because of what other people will think, then we're not free at all, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I was thinking as you were talking that there is a place where I feel somehow that there's something on the outside controlling me sometimes, more so when we're together, which causes me to then react in ways or act in ways that I don't want to. But it's in my head. It's my idea in my head that somehow you're not approving of me or something like that, which causes me to go into that space of defensiveness or whatever it is that I go into.
right.
And I don't do that in the same way. I don't do that in the same way in other relationships, and I don't do that in the same way as much when we're not together.
Right. So, okay, I want you to hold that thought right now, because I hold that thought. I want to come back to that thought. I don't want to go away from it.
When we get to therapy.
I'm exercising my freedom right now, because I know, even though the audience is very quiet, I happen to know someone's out there that had a birthday recently, and she's one of
Really?
my very, very favorite people. And so I want to give a big shout out and a happy birthday to Reverend Sherry Greer, because we love her. We love, love, love her. And I just want to send lots of birthday love your way. I was
Yeah.
exercising my freedom to interrupt. But I want to go back. I think that's interesting. I think that's really interesting. And I think it's interesting that you say, I mean, well, not, I mean, obviously it's different in every relationship, but just talking about what you're, just reflecting on what you're saying, like, yeah, I see where it shows up with me, but I also see where it shows up for you with other people as well.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
but of course it's going to show up, because it has nothing to do with any of us.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it's all you.
It's all in my head. I mean, at some level, that's what's going on. I mean, any place where we're not free, where I'm thinking,
You have frozen now.
I'm dealing with something.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Oh, Summit Sitter from Akron is talking now.
So, yeah, you got sidetracked because you froze. So,
Oh, I froze.
Yeah.
Okay.
so what did you say?
Just that it's all in our head, and it's all the freedom lies in knowing or taking advantage of the opportunity to make a choice and not believe that it is somehow being forced upon oneself. Like there's something that says I have to do this, and Therefore, I can get resentful. But the reality is somehow I've decided I have to do that. And if I continue to decide I have to do that and I get upset, then probably I should figure out how to shift it, because I'm getting upset. It's not working for me.
Well, but it's kind of like the basis of this work, right? It's like, where are we coming from?
Right.
Right? I mean, where are we reacting from? Where are we, and if we, and this is no easy task, because at least for me, because yeah, it's important to me what someone else thinks, or if I'm going to choose the right answer, or whatever. And it's a practice to really be able to check in and figure out what you want and where you're reacting from. Not, I know she really wants this rug, and I know blah, 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 blah. Because it's deeper than that. Even in that situation, I would say to you, because in a relationship where you know each other, like we do, and you knew I wanted the rug. This is a real situation, folks. Welcome to our marriage.
But wait. It was a trip to Ross. It was very exciting, everyone. I'm sorry you missed it, but we found a rug. All right, go ahead.
No, but it really wasn't. It really wasn't about the rug. It's about the fact that I would like to find a rug or something that will go well in our house. And instead of you trying to fulfill what you think is my need, which isn't even really my need, what I want to know in that moment is, do you like this rug? I really want to know if you think it's going to be the right rug. And if you don't care, and that's the issue, if it's not important to you, that's a different conversation, like, because when I ask a question, most of the time I think I'm really looking for the answer, like a genuine answer about what you think, for me. Because being in partnership, it's like, that's, I want to know. It doesn't mean I'm going to say, oh yeah, great, let's do that. It just means then we can balance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So freedom, what we're talking about and what your quote's about is we are at choice, if we're living in our freedom, to, and it's interesting when it says how we react to things. And I think it's not only how we react, it's how we choose to think about what it is that's happening, that then makes us choose what our reaction is. Because there's so much about laying on top a belief about whatever the situation is and what's coming at me, which I don't always know. I can't know because it's coming from someone else. I can't know their motivations and all of that, but I think I do. And so then I react from that place. And so the freedom is to choose to go, I don't really know this information. This is what they said, they did, whatever. So I'm going to react from a logical place or whatever around that.
Well, and this is a growing edge for you and many, and is that you want to know. I mean, that's your, I don't know if it's your love language or your psyche makeup. I don't know, but you are of that. You want to know. You want to understand and get to that. And so you're trying to understand in order to get back around to how you should feel once you understand what's happening. Does that make sense?
Right.
And, whereas I'm like, go with the flow. I'm like, oh, well, what I understand is there's a challenge here, or there's a problem here. I don't need to know how it happened. And so I think that, again, I think it's the premise of our whole show, which is, at the end of the day, you have to rock the love in every situation. There's nothing else. So where are you coming from in that moment? How, are you coming from a place of love? Are you coming from a place of peace? Are you able to stand in are you able to react from that place? You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh. Yeah, that makes total sense. It makes total sense. And the idea of wanting to know in some ways takes away my freedom, because I can't know a lot of the time. you know so I can't really get what I think I need in order to be able to make said decision. I have to base it, or I have to base my actions on something else. I can't base them on knowing the totality of the situation, or knowing that the other person sees it in a way that we both can agree on.
Well, and I think any of that you're talking about, it takes us out of the moment. So it
Yeah.
takes us away from the one. I'm going to share another quote that is really poignant today. You can't separate peace from freedom, because no one can have peace unless he has freedom. It's Malcolm X.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think that relates to what I was saying. Of you can't be, if you're not, you can't do it if you can't be in that place of truly being in integrity with what and why you're doing things.
Yeah. That quote brings up for me that the idea I mentioned a couple weeks ago, that sometimes the people living in the house next door are more imprisoned than someone who's at the federal prison. They're living in more of a prison than that, because of how they are containing their lives. And Malcolm X said, the thing about, you can't have freedom without peace. What flashed on was the idea that when we think of somebody who's living in their freedom, we think of somebody who's living in a state of peace with the world as it is at some level.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That they've made peace with whatever it is, whether it's living in the or living in a jail cell. They've made peace with whatever that is for them, and not only made peace with it, but they're able to embrace it from a place of peace, as opposed to a place of opposition and a place of anger and all of that. And so, yes, when we're doing that, we're not really free to make choices. We're not really free to live our life, because we're controlled by whatever it is that's telling us how we need to feel.
So I think this is such an important topic. I mean, obviously, we could talk about the past and freedom and Juneteenth and slaves and being imprisoned and all of those things. And we could talk about the future. We could talk about where our mind goes when we think about certain things happening in the world, or we look at different situations out in the world in, war-torn countries or political situations that we may not like. And so it brings me to the now. And I think, like, where are the places we let go of our freedom right now, right here in our relationships here, at work or with our kids or with our family? Does something come up for you that's
I think sometimes when I'm somehow surprised by people and how they, if they respond in some kind of negative way to something, at least I perceive to be negative. And I think sometimes that then I don't end up, but it's possible to move to a place where I'm not feeling able or free to love in the way I want to, because I'm frustrated, because I feel disconnected, because I feel something, you know. And the reality is that disagreeing or whatever it is doesn't have an effect on love and all of those things. It doesn't need to. It doesn't necessarily mean it has, right? It just means it's something we don't agree on.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I'm contemplating like really what even is freedom on some level. I mean, no, I don't mean to be funny. I just mean what what is it? Because when what you're saying, like, and when we're reacting to something like that, then we're taking away the other person's freedom to be who they are. You know, if you're upset
Right.
with someone else, and so like, what is the balance, and how do you stand in that? Like, I mean, I'm thinking about a particular situation where we have the opportunity to share with someone a place where they might be able to grow, or a response that people had regarding something they did. And how do you frame that as, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm asking? It's like, I don't know. I feel like I have the freedom to do that, and yet the is the is it how does it fall into that category? Does that make sense?
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit. How um but well, I don't know, because what it brought up for me when you said what talked about that was, so if I am sharing something with someone about something that feels kind of negative, am I providing them the space to be free to deal with it, or am I forcing them to deal with it? Am I exerting my authority to make them something? You know what I mean? Am I really acting from that place of freedom? It's an interesting question. I mean, I'm not suggesting anything's wrong anywhere in the process. I'm just saying it brings up some really interesting questions.
It does, and it just makes me. I mean, having lived in another country, and gone to college there, and things like that, and then come back, I am always super grateful, just super grateful about how different it is to be here, and to have the sense of freedom that I have, you know. And it's interesting though, like, to just to really explore that word, because I mean, yeah, in some ways we'd say, in a marriage you do lose parts of your freedom in that, but you don't really, because you're making the decision, or I'm making the decision for what
Right.
I want to create, and so it's not like a loss of freedom. It's like, uh, I want a better word than manipulation, but but it is. It's like an aspect of freedom, because I'm free to choose.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it is. If freedom is really about choice, then it may look from the outside, particularly in someone else's view, as if one isn't free, because they're somehow in this thing and they can't get out, you know? And I think it goes back to the thing of how much freedom can one experience of um, in the midst of making choices that would limit them in some way, and
And I
or
think,
when others have done that for them. For instance, you're in prison, now how do you deal with that, and so I don't think, yeah, I think freedom is on a whole lot of levels.
Yeah, and I think what I'm coming to right here is that we have one stance of freedom, but I also think that it's a negotiation. Freedom is a negotiation. And if you're in a job, if you're in a partnership, if you're, whatever relationship you're in where you're relating to somebody, it is a negotiation in that sometimes you have to redefine what it looks like, and it's sort of like you have to shift from freedom from the I to freedom to the we if you're honoring the relationship. And that means even if it's a work relationship and you're negotiating a day off or a vacation, or you're forging new grounds, and and just opening up the space, because there you have to negotiate freedom on some level to have it both ways and be respectful to to your relationship, to whether it's a some partnership or a team thing or whatever it is. You just have to kind of recommit, right?
Yeah. So how about this? So even as we have the freedom to choose not to do things, we have the freedom to choose to do things, to be involved in things. I was thinking about the vacation day. I can choose to take it anyway. I'm free to choose that.
Right.
I'm also free to choose not to, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to create whatever. I want to maintain a relationship or whatever it is. And I think you could say that in personal relationships. You could say the same kinds of things, right?
Hmm.
So that's where it gets really interesting. It's like I may choose something that appears. So then it goes to, how do I characterize that? How do I hold it? Do I hold it as if I was forced and therefore now it becomes an issue? Or do I activate it as if I'm free, as if this is my choice?
Yeah. I mean, what came up for me when you were saying that, I was thinking like, nobody's the boss of me. That kind of freedom, which made me
Right.
think like, for me, I think freedom is a sacred negotiation on some level. I think I think you have to. I mean, you have to find it within yourself, and um, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's coming up the analogy of being an actor, and when you're acting, you take on all these different things for your role, and you get your character's psyche down, and you do all this research, and then you walk on the stage and you kind of throw it out, because it's whatever's going to stick is stuck, and
Right.
it's going to come out in your performance. And so I think our idea of freedom is, you know, and the one that we universally hold, and the one that we want freedom and equality and for all people, you know, that's a beautiful vision. And how do we find that for ourselves? And I think that's where you know, we negotiate the possibilities. Because in our real life, we can't always do it the same way, and be in integrity with our marriage or our relationships.
So I think from I don't know, political standpoint, from an outside standpoint, our freedom is in having the choice to have the choice. I can choose to marry you. I can choose to be in a relationship and love my wife. I can choose to be in a relationship and not like my wife. I mean, that's up to me, right? But if I was told that, either I marry you or I get shot, that's not really a choice. You know, I mean, it's a choice still, but it's pretty limited. You know, it in essence has taken away my freedoms because there's a very negative outcome to making one choice, even though that's the one that one might rather make, you know? So somehow in that political thing and freedom of people and all people being free, I think it really comes down to where people have freedom of agency. And I think that's the key. And then we exercise freedom in all kinds of ways within ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But I have free agency to make those things, to make those mistakes, to make, you know, to do all that stuff.
It's an interesting topic. It's an interesting topic. And I would just say that as we close this out, wherever you land on it or whatever you're thinking about it, take a moment and be grateful that we have it. And then see in your life if there's a place where maybe you're locked up, or maybe you'd like to be a little freer, or you'd like to live into that moment of freedom.
Or maybe you're living from a space of believing that you don't have a choice. In which case, that's believing you're not free.
Yes. Yes. Which brings up another quote that I used to say with my teenagers when I was working with teenagers. And that is, I invite you this week to keep a positive thought, because a positive thought cannot be denied. And that's the way I feel about freedom. So hold it in that energetic and go out, you all, this week and feel free to rock the love everywhere that you can. Thank you so much for being with us, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Shay, for commenting.
And Sherry.
And Sherry for being here.
Girl.
Happy birthday.
And we see you others out there. You can't hide from us. Just know that. See you next week.
All right, we're going to go.